This weekend I've been spending most of my time reading a small sci-fi book, and I liked it more than I thought, and it kind of stuck with me. The book is The Word for World is Forest by Ursula K. Le Guin. It's actually a book my girlfriend gave to me because she knew I liked The Dispossessed and The Left Hand of Darkness, and personally I didn't know this book, so I was pleasantly surprised after reading it. It's pretty manageable to read over the weekend, like a couple of hours and you're through it. It's like 110 pages, I think, yeah, 113. And it's a great little read, yeah. But there's also a bit more thought to it than just a fun story. It's one of those books that's short, but yeah, kind of stays in your head, makes you think. I've been trying to read some couple shorter books because I read a couple of big ones lately, so I wanted to mix it up a bit, and I thought this would be the perfect one. So yeah, the story is quite simple. It's about humans who arrive on a planet and start exploiting it for resources. The story is that the Earth has run out of all its wood, and this planet is covered in it. And there's also a native population. They look like humans, but they're a bit shorter and hairier. They've been named kind of like monkeys, and they're green. They're seen as something lesser by most of the humans who we are first meeting in this story. There aren't like many big plot twists and surprises in the story, but it's more about how the people act and how they think they're entitled to something. They're entitled to abuse the native population, entitled to the resources, and yeah, that's what stood out pretty quickly. It's a bit uncomfortable, I think. It wasn't super exaggerated except for a couple of characters, but even those had some basis in reality, I would say. I know a couple of people who would react the same as they did. So one of the main ideas in this book is that violence isn't something natural to everyone. It's something that gets introduced, passed on, so we say. I don't completely agree with this in a strict sense, but I think there's like a piece of truth in this. People generally tend to mistreat what they don't understand. And once something becomes less than in your mind, you start to justify it almost, that you have the right to abuse it. The main example of this is probably one of the commanders in this book. The more you sit with it, the more normal it almost feels. He isn't just violent, he's just very convinced that he has the right to abuse his people. One of the main problems in his book starts with him. He is kind of the main problem causer. And this mindset isn't completely fictional, I think. It has some basis in its reality. There are really people like that, and that is what makes it most uncomfortable for me, I think. Because I know people who react like that. They're entitled to shit. They think they own everything, they can say what they want, and to a certain point you can express your opinion, tell everyone whatever the fuck you want, but yeah. It does feel like a slightly simplified version of this story. I think there could have been more depth to it, but it's also quite thin, and that's also part of the appeal, I think. So, I think it's a great little read. Then a little chat about the native population. They're quite the opposite of the humans. They have more of like a Eastern philosophy. They live part of their lives in dreams. There's more of a calmness to their culture. No pure focus on production or doing anything, just more of a focus on living and dreaming. dreams play a big part in the story. And yeah, I think that's quite a beautiful concept that makes this book work really well. But also the part about the dreams is when they see new things, they adapt. They have their so-called gods. And a god is someone in their culture who implies a new structure, a new way of doing things. One of those things is murder. And he becomes a god for that. And that's when the violence gets introduced in the system and it doesn't stay contained. So even in the places where there was no violence before, or very limited, there was, yeah, enormous massacres, almost like genocide. But I think what stays with me most about this book is the ending, and you really have to read it because I don't want to spoil it too much. But the ending of this is, yeah, it's great. I think it's ironic. I thought it was a little bit funny, almost. Let's just say it has to do with the consequences of your actions, and probably not in the way you think it does, but it's the perfect ending. So all in all, I think this book does really well. Shows us a little bit about what life is about being civilized, being capable of destruction, and that sometimes it's a very fine line about breaking down. I'd recommend this book to everyone, even if you're not that into sci-fi. The sci-fi elements aren't that heavy, and there's not too much complex world building. It's more about the people than anything else, I think. And it leaves you with enough to think afterwards. So I'm quite curious to other people who've read this. What do you think about the idea? Is violence something that's inherently human or something we learn over time? Because after reading this, I was kind of doubting it. I thought it wasn't inherent to humans, but it might change my mind how I think about things. So let me know.